Alright everyone, so right now I'm going to be freehanding my camera, so please refrain from tripod jokes because there's no way I'm able to do this at this distance with the 65 and the 55-inch size difference and get them both in the frame like this. So do bear with me, and I even might have to zoom out just a little bit more so you guys can see the full picture here. Okay, now these two are going to go back and forth. And I mean like a lot, but overall the Samsung Q8FN is the winner. That's the short answer for those who don't want to watch the full video. Now here's why I say that. Color is better and worse on the TCL Q825. So if you look at scenes like this, the Q8FN is not capable of rendering that color of red accurately on her skin tone. However, when you look at the TCL, it's not struggling from that issue. Now, when we go into other colors, however, like this, it's a win for the Q8FN because when you get to the way they handle the color blue, it's way more accurate than what TCL is doing, where things just start looking black. And then if you look at her lipstick, that also starts getting really dark, and I'm just not feeling the way that they're rendering that. It's not very realistic when she's in her little jet there. Now, again, when you get to other little sample images like this, again, getting back to a reddish kind of color, I feel that TCL is doing really good with the way they handle the color red. Not a problem there at all. Tone mapping's tighter. It looks a lot better than the Q8FN on this particular scene. Now, if we go to something like this, for example, where you're seeing an explosion, this is going to look better on the Q8FN. You have tons more color. This is clipping here on my end, so I'm going to turn it down a bit. You have tons more color and the green and in the red and in the overall explosion. And also you have more sharpness in the overall image quality, where TCL is a little flatter by comparison. So again, not really understanding what that's all about. Now, what I've found is that this trades back and forth depending on even like the title, like the game. So if you go to images like this, for example, it'll look so much better on the TCL than on the Samsung. I don't know why that is, but this particular image looks a lot better. And for some things, TCL absolutely will be dominating the Samsung. So for certain games, certain contents is a win. But I feel like they are entirely way too similar at some things that they shouldn't be. For example, the way they handle black levels, I feel like the Q8FN edges out the TCL in the black level regard. When you turn on this TV, you do run into clouding. Not only when you turn onto this TV do you run into clouding, but in some scenes you can even run into some faint light leakage and things of that nature. And I want to show you what I'm talking about before, because again, it's not just about color, right? There's obviously the black level thing a lot of people are excited about with mini LED. Now, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about with the black level issues. Now, if I'm on the bright mode and I'm in movie mode to pull this off, okay? So if we go into our picture settings and we go into our brightness, I have it set to 52. Now, to be very clear here, this TV has a black crush issue. This TV was designed and made for black crush. If you want to get around that, you're going to destroy the picture quality of your TV. And here's what I'm talking about. The accurate way to set the black levels or shadow detail is 57. However, past 54, you introduce ugly hazing and flashlighting in your image. Now I'm going to bump my ISO up here quite a bit so you guys can see this, right? We're now at ISO 2000 and you can fully see all the haze that I have on my end. And it looks god-awful. And this is what I was running into during that YouTube video on my initial impressions where you guys saw all that clouding and hazing. It's because I accurately set up the shadow detail, not realizing that this performs a lot like an OLED in the regard that when you set the shadow detail a certain way, it's gonna look like trash. And I mean like absolute gutter trash. I'll zoom in exclusively just to this screen here so you can see all that hazing. I won't change my focus point, but you guys can kind of see all that hazing. And that's what happens on this TV if you want to avoid black crush. So TCL definitely has to figure that out because that's not acceptable for $2,000. Now that being said, I have found movie mode to be less obtrusive when we have the black crush issue. You can drop it down to 53, your blacks get deep, and you get as much shadow detail as this TV will allow. Again, you're not getting OLED level black, so don't expect that because that is not going to happen, but you are getting better black than what it was capable of, and definitely sharper and better than what the Q8FN is capable of doing at base value with the same exact type of image. Now, that being said, we're going to lower our ISO again, and we're going to show you some more of what I'm talking about as far as like scene to scene. These things are very different, and they couldn't be further from one another. Take, for example, the color blue. The color blue is another color that is very weak on the Samsung Q or the TCL Q825. Now, if you look at this, you can see that, again, it's just, I don't know what it is about the way that they're rendering color, but you can clearly see that there's a vast difference. I'll even lower it a bit so you can see the tonality difference and the brightness. It's so much worse on TCL with the color blue. And that's a problem because blue is one of the major primary colors that render all other colors. What am I talking about? Okay, let's go to My Hero Academia, for example. Take a look at this image. This image shows a big difference in the way that the color orange is mapping. Orange is mapping to a degree where it looks faded and pale on the TCL, where on the, again, Samsung, it's not having that problem. And this bugs the hell out of me because this is something that everybody is going to experience for the most part, right? You're going to run into these kinds of issues, and I find it very darn unfortunate. Again, there's nothing wrong with the overall color. It's still punchy, it's still popping, and I'm sure it'll be better than most QLEDs on the market today, but I'm comparing this to something that I'm looking to replace, the 2018 Samsung Q8FN to the right, and the TCL Q825 to the left is not the ultimate answer. Now, to be fair, it also doesn't have the same limitations though as Samsung, where if we look at this particular image, Samsung is fading out the character a little bit to preserve the image quality. And if we go to this image, you can even see a dirty screen line that's right down here on this particular gradation on the Q8FN, where on the TCL it is just clean. A tad darker, admittedly, but it's cleaner. So the two colors that this TV is struggling to reproduce accurately are red and blue, and I don't understand that. Like, overall, the image quality is great, it is solid, but I mean, looking at the two, they are very comparable to one another. This image goes to the TCL, but I mean, some things are amiss. Take, for example, the color green. Now we're getting to yet another primary color, and when I look at these two, you're not going to see it on YouTube. Of course, the TCL looks good and everything, but it's in the way that they render the color green. I'll go to this clip that I have from Spider-Man on PS4 and see if I can't find what I'm trying to show you guys here. There we go. This particular scene in Spider-Man on PS4 will show you the color green and the lack thereof. Now, overall, right now, as I look at the TCL, it does look better from a color paletry standpoint than the Q8FN. The facial tone looks better, and overall I am more impressed and I'm looking at that more. Motion is more juddery on the TCL though. I'm noticing that as he enters the room, and you know, not really my thing. But one of the things that I find most jarring is when you look at the representation of the color green. This is where I have my problem with TCL. This right here. Take a look at how they're rendering the color green. It's more pale and not as vibrant as the Q8FN, which is clearly more vibrant and more vivid. And now this means that your movies aren't going to be as expressive as on the Q8FN. Now the Q8FN is totally edging out the TCL, looking way better by comparison, and like blowing me away in every way quantifiable. Like, this is ridiculous. And this is a $2,000 TV not able to keep up with the same level of vibrancy as a TV I once paid $16.99 after tax, or $16.04 after taxes for. So, I mean, that's my gripe here. Primary colors are not buttoned up to the degree that I would have hoped them to be buttoned up to. And when your primary colors are not buttoned up, you run into problems like this. Like, again, on your loading screens, the Q8FN being the more vibrant of the two televisions. And when we run into, again, in-game content, again, the color orange, way more vibrant. I'll tone it down so it's not clipping on both displays, and there you go. I mean, the Q8FN is still more vibrant. Now, I don't know how much of it you can see, but essentially on my end, as I look at Scorpion's outfit, I can see more yellow, more vibrancy and purity behind the yellow inside the uniform than on the TCL Q825. And I don't understand how they could have messed that up. It's like they had one job to do. They could have done it and they didn't. Take, for example, this color yellow right here. You're seeing it again in real time, the color yellow being a big problem on the TCL Q825 to the left. I don't know, man. everybody has their preference, I guess, but look at Garurumon. I mean, look at the blue in this Digimon's face right now. Like, all over that character, it's not as crisp as it should be, and that's a problem for 2,000 American dollars. Now, if the TCL was like $14.99, I would easily forgive a lot of this stuff. It wouldn't be a big deal, so if you can find it for that price, wonderful. But for its current price point, this is a ripoff. Absolute total freaking ripoff. You have less color in the sky now. As we look, there is less color going across here and things of that nature. So definitely something I don't like. Now, I want to address this. As you can see, they're clearly different in their tonality. People have been saying that the Q8FN looks more magenta-ish and the TCL doesn't have that problem. That's not what's going on at all. What's happening is TCL is more flat by comparison, so much so that it's actually making the Q8FN look magenta by comparison. And I just don't know what that deal is. I don't understand that. Now, if we go to images like this and we can look at the tone mapping capabilities of both, it is abundantly obvious that both are elegantly placed TVs against one another. They look great. Obviously, the Q8's winning the color advantage here, and things like the color vibrancy of the hair, the color red is ridiculously more vivid, and I think this is where the budget aspect is starting to come into play when we're talking about TCL. They don't have the experience to start charging $2,000 because they don't have picture processing down and they don't know how to render colors on a QLED level. The same as Samsung, who's been doing it for the latter part of what, 3.5 years at this point? I mean, they need more experience is the problem. And I just don't see where they're putting that effort into getting that experience before charging top dollar. Now, you're not going to see it on your end, but essentially, as I look at this image, the image to the left on the TCL Q825 has softer sparks flying off the sword here, but when we look at the Q8FN, that stuff is just buttoned up and it looks super darn clean. And this is my big gripe. The overall color paletry as well, far more vivid and vibrant on the Q8FN. Your eye immediately goes over there as like a wow thing, not as an it's oversaturated, it's cartoonish, but like as a wow thing. And take this image, for example, the same can hold true. Now, I wouldn't be fair if I didn't show you guys my settings. So here are the settings for the TCL Q825. I have time sleeper off. I'm actually gonna zoom in here so we can see just the TCL, right? So this is just our point of focus, right? I'm gonna get that in focus again. Apologize for the hand holding, but to get both in the frame, it would not have been possible. All right, now we're going to make it so it's not clipping here. I hope that does it for you guys. I don't know how much of it you can or cannot see, but I'm gonna show you guys my settings here. Okay, sleep sleeper mode off, or sleep timer off. I don't know why I had such a hard time saying that, but we go to a picture bright mode, we go to movie mode, we go to auto for the picture size, sound mode normal. Don't do anything for the advanced sound. Go into advanced pictures. I'm in movie mode, and in movie mode I have contrast set to high, or local contrast set to high. I've got backlight at 87. I've got brightness at 53. I've got contrast at 68, sharpness at 32, colors at 65, tint at -1. Now, a special note with tint actually corrects the yellow. The yellow looks very highlighter yellowish, like more than it actually should. And if you want to avoid that, go down -1 on the tint. It's really aggressive and it adds more of a reddish tint to everything, including like the color hues and things like that, instead of just like the overall picture. So just keep that in mind when we're talking about these two displays. Now, aside from that, we're going to go into our color temperature, where color temperature is set to warm. We've got our action smoothing on high. We've got our action clarity on high. You don't turn on LED motion clarity. I ran into a nasty glitch where when I turned this on, I had this weird breaking down of the local dimming algorithm, and I can actually see black squares like mapping out when things would get brighter and darker, like all over the screen, just mapping. And it was very, very distracting. I thought to record it, but I felt like, you know, maybe that is a defect of this particular thing from early software bugs, so I didn't want to do that to TCL. But be wary of LED motion clarity, because that is a problem. Now, as far as game motion or game mode, I don't have game mode enabled, and that's pretty much it. These are the settings that I'm rocking with right now, all right? So now we're gonna go back to looking at both of these displays. Hopefully I can get my both displays in focus here. And I mean, honestly, guys, for $2,000, this TV is not worth it. Like that's pretty final, right? I don't think I'll walk that back, but I mean, it's not a terrible TV. It's not a 0. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the worst TV ever created, but there's a color problem, right? It's less vibrant than the competitors. And like, obviously, if you're looking at 2019 QLEDs, I can't speak to those because I know those colors have been nerfed. I know Samsung has tried less this year than what they did in 2018. So my advice to anybody watching, just get yourself a 65-inch Q8FN or buy the Hisense H9F. Those two TVs are freaking champions. Like, and you know it's a good TV if I sign off on it, because I'm the biggest TV snob, I think, on the planet Earth right now. Because I won't give anybody a pass on anything. I'm going to call it all out. I'm not going to justify it as that whole, there's no such thing as a perfect TV. I don't play that game. You will be perfect for 2,000 American dollars or you will get trashed for it. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, I'm not paying you $2,000 for you to sit on your hands and figure it out later. You will get it perfect 100% of the time, or you're going to get docked for it. That's how things work. You get what you earn. And at least in my America, I don't know about anybody else's America, but that's how it works for me. And the Q8FN is dominating a TV that's $2,000, and that's a freaking problem. That's a big, big, big problem. And I take great protest to it. Again, if you go to some select content, you know, TCL does take the advantage. You know, it looks better here. This is obviously way worse by comparison. The ramp now, if you look at WWE's ramp, it's not gray. It's now trending more purplish. So yeah, I can understand where that doesn't look as accurate as it should, most definitely. And I can't even color calibrate because Samsung has the worst color space management on the market. And the color red, the way it separates with the color black, not accurate. So again, TCL can edge out the Samsung Q8FN in some scenes, abso-freaking-lutely, but not in every scene, and I think that's the problem here. For $2,000, you should be leaving the Samsung Q8FN in the dust, and it just doesn't happen when we get to those primary colors. Primary colors appear way more flat, diluted, and there's something very impure about the way TCL is going about their quantum dot technology, and I think that's something you should know about for $2,000. That being said, if you guys have any questions, you guys know I hold a live stream 7 p.m. through 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Friday. I want to thank you guys for watching the #1 brand in honesty, and until the next video, I'll see you guys later.